we're going to take a look at some simple time series data. So here in Tableau, we can see I've loaded my data source. We've got the dates here and then just an arbitrary number of steps that was taken on each of the dates. The thing to note here is we're actually missing some of the date ranges, single dates, sorry. So here we jump from the 3rd to the 5th, and we're missing the 9th as well. So let's take a look at how Tableau handles this. Another thing to note is this symbol here shows we are in the date data type. So Tableau knows that this is a date. If this was a string, Tableau wouldn't recognize this as a date and it wouldn't be able to work with it in the correct way. So we're just going to go ahead and leave it on date. If it's not on date, that's going to be your first issue and you're going to need to fix that data type. So going over to sheet 1, we can just drag in our date over here and it's going to show at year to begin with. Tableau has nicely aggregated that for us. So I'm going to go ahead, click here and just change this to the actual day. And then I can bring in my step count as well. Going to go ahead and flip those. We can see that Tableau has auto-generated the graph for me. One thing to note though is those missing days. Tableau knows we're working with dates, so it has actually included those missing days. But what you can see that it's done is not actually popped them on the graph. So we're jumping from the 3rd to the 5th in terms of value and skipping over the 4th here. This is probably not what we want to do, and it would depend on what those missing values were. Let's say they were days where we were in bed. So we did no steps in this example. The problem we have is that we can't impute data that doesn't exist in Tableau. So Tableau doesn't have any data for that 4th or the 9th. So we're going to need to give it a generated date range that actually has all of the dates in there. So to demonstrate this, we've just used Excel and we have the complete date range like so. And we're going to go ahead and add that file as an available data source. So let's select date range and let's take a look. Now that we have this and we have this new sheet 1, I'm just going to go ahead and quickly rename this to my time series data, like so. And I can now drag in sheet 1 from date range. And we want to go ahead and call this date range. The important thing here is how we join this together. At the moment, it's doing an inner join. So it's only showing us rows where it exists in both. This means we're missing the 4th and the 9th still because they're the only ones that are in both. What we need to do is change our join so that it brings through everything from date range, even if there is no match. So let's take a look here. We want to go for the right join, and that's because the date range table is on the right. So this is saying, bring me everything from this right-hand table and glue it together with the time series where there's a match. Now that we've changed it to the right join, we can see we're getting these null values where we don't have any steps, which is brilliant. So now if we head back to our a new sheet, let's take a look at what we get this time. We want to be using date from our date range and not date from our time series. So let's drag out this date here. Again, I need to change this to be the day like so. And I'm just going to bring out my step count. And this is what we get. So we're a little bit closer to our desired output here. We can see that we're getting the 3rd and the 5th, And because we have that nan value, or not a number or missing value, for the 4th and the 9th, we are just getting a break in our time series. So we're going to need to do something to deal with our missing values. I'm going to deal with mine quite simply by replacing them with a 0. So I'm going to click here and go to create calculated field. And I'm going to call this steps complete. And I'm going to say if null. And the value I want to know if it's null is steps. And here I can specify what to include if it is null. And I'm going to go with a 0. Just going to click OK. So now we have another field we can use, and this is going to have that 0 instead of the null. So let's drag this in, and we can already see the difference there in this other graph. So let's take out the non-complete version, and there we go. We now have a time series graph that shows us our missing values as we wanted. So 0 on the 4th of January and 0 on the 9th